Hey, good morning. So today, actually, Hanmant Raju, the Deputy Commissioner IRS, should have been there, but due to a family emergency, he could not make it because he had to go urgently. So anyway, I'll be only doing this session. So today we'll be going through what is there in political science. First of all, syllabus. Then once we go through the syllabus, we have to also go into that how to prepare for the sources and what type of question has come and how the PSIR as an option has performed in last 3 to 4 years. And then we'll look into certain sample question also, that how the class will be happening, how the course will be going. So these details will be first discussed. So then you can ask your questions, whatever doubts you have. So in UPSC preparation, one major thing will be your optional subject, because optional subject will carry 500 marks. So in a sense, if you take your GS subjects, GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4, again taking essay, paper into equation. So if there is one area where you can score more than 65% of the marks, it will be optional. Because if you take in average GS paper, to score like 120 or 130 in any GS paper, it will be any day difficult. If you see the scoring pattern also, usually one or two toppers might get 120, 130, but on an average the score will be around 100 to 90, you can say on an average. So optional will be always the key, because in optional you have seen people who are scoring like 300 and now. For last time, if you take first ranker was from political science, so her score was almost 320 or 315. So in optional you can take the bulk of the marks, but again it depends upon, it does not mean that oh, if you take political science automatically you will score 300. That is not going to happen automatically. You have to read in the option, you have to prepare accordingly. That applies to any option. So there is no option saying that this option is scoring well, this option is not doing well. End of the day, it is you who are going to score in the option, not because of the option is scoring well that you will do well. Yeah, maybe that for certain options you can say the performance might be better in last 2 to 3 years in that regard. So that will come to later, the scoring out. Now if you take optional paper, it will have two papers, paper 1 and paper 2 in every optional. And in every optional the paper will be designed in such a way that both the optional will have both the optional will have what you can say, paper 1 and paper 2, and both the papers will have part A and part B. Okay, so if you take in political science, part A you have Western and Indian political thought, and you have political concepts. In part B you have Indian government and politics. Similarly in paper 2, if you take part A, you have comparative politics and theories in international relations, and in part B you have Indian foreign policy. Now, usually part A of all optional subjects will be theoretical, means you need to read certain theories. So, especially those who are from, let us take non-science background or non-social science background, what do you mean by a theory and how to read theory? Because some people will have doubts, sir, theory is very difficult for us to remember, etc. It's not difficult in that way. Mainly, what is a theory? Is an idea which is proposed by a person. So in a theory is that it is one thing is proposing, whether it is right or it is wrong, that you will have to examine and see. So for example, when we take Western and Indian political thought, you will be reading about ideas of certain scholars. Let us take one first scholar you will be reading in your syllabus. If you take, there are 9 Western scholars over there: Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke, J.S. Mill. Then you have Gramsci, Hannah Arendt. Sir, the question will come, should I read everything about Plato? No. Plato has told many things. Here only you are reading about political ideas of Plato, means what he has told about politics. So Plato's ideas is simple. Plato belongs to a period called as city-state of Athens, means Greece, what we call today's Greece. So at that point of time, he was the student of a person called as Socrates, and Socrates died. Means he was poisoned. Why? Because he gave certain ideas which was not acceptable to the people at that point of time, especially the state. So Plato became a critic of democracy. He told democracy is not an ideal type of government, and he proposed an alternative idea called as philosopher king. Now your whole study is about his idea of philosopher king. That how do we elect this philosopher king? So basically he says that one who becomes a ruler should not have a family, he should not have private property. Okay. So then don't think, sir, Narendra Modi you're speaking out. That was an ageist time. That time it was not. So he told that should be a ruler. Why? Because he said one who has to rule should not have anything which is private. But how does he create that philosophy is the whole idea that you are going to study. And then we have to analyze and see, okay, is this idea applicable in today's time? Is it possible? So we need to compare, like, can we apply this idea to India? We are speaking about ancient times, that to a small city state which was there, population was very small, and compared to today present India where the population is huge, and these kind of ideas, is it applicable or not, that we have to examine and see. Like this, every one person has given one idea. Aristotle, his student, he's criticized Plato. He's criticized his idea of philosopher king and say that it is not practical. Then you have Machiavelli. Machiavelli is something whose writings are very much similar to Kautilya, who's written the book Arthashastra. So we are going to read these ideas in Western political thought. Similarly, in Indian political thought, we are going to read Indian scholars. Whom we are going to read? Not everybody. It is mentioned in the syllabus. Kautilya, Manu. You are going to read about Arbindo Ghosh, M.N. Roy, Syed Ahmad Khan, Ambedkar, Gandhi. So these are the people largely you are going to read about Indian political thought. Then we are going to make a comparison how Indian political thought is different from the Western political thought. And then we'll go into concepts. What kind of concepts we are going into? So we are going to concepts such as equality, liberty, democracy. Now in GS also you would have read equality, liberty, democracy in your polity. Here we are going into different theories in that regard. So it will be more in depth. So for example, when we say democracy, the popular idea is that democracy is of the government, by the government, sorry, of the people, by the people, for the people. That is a common thing. But there are different models of democracy. For example, China also calls itself as a democracy. America also calls itself as a democracy. India also calls itself as a democracy. So there are different models of democracy. There is liberal model of democracy. There is participatory model of democracy. There is representative model of democracy. What are the advantages, disadvantages? And of course, there will be certain scholars who bring their viewpoints on that. That we'll have to look into. Same thing, equality. Now, equality in simple sense, you can say, okay, equality means what? In general, a general reading. Okay, everybody can be considered as equal, okay, but the, let me take into this. Now, if you look into this picture, there will be different ideas of equality. Now, here you can say the first picture, what you can see, that you can say is your idea of equality. Nobody should be discriminated, everybody should be treated as equal. So, in the first picture, if you see, all three people are treated equally only. How? All of them have given a stool which is of same size. So this fellow is able to watch the match more comfortably. Now she raises her leg, she is able to watch the match. This fellow is not able to watch the match. So many times we can say, when we need to speak about justice, this idea of equality won't work. Then we'll have to go into the idea of equity. What is equity? Giving things based on necessity of people. So this fellow needs a bigger stool. Okay, then it will make him equal with the another person. So idea of reservation, if you take, it is based on same. So here we are going to examine these ideas. There are different scholars who will speak out. Like you have Amartya Sen. Okay, he speaks about, question is about, he says equality of what? For example, now you say, we'll give same book to everybody in the class. And let them say everybody will read the book and everybody now will be equal. Amartya Sen does not agree with it. He said it is not about giving everybody equal books or same book. Giving everybody the capability to read that book. So obviously some people might be capable to read that book. Let us say it's an English book. There is a Kannada medium student. He does not know how to read the book. So obviously you cannot say no, it is justice. So Amartya Sen speaks about equality of what? Capabilities. So capabilities means invest on education, invest on health, etc. So like this we have to go into different concepts. What is there in equality? So if we go into our, what is it, paper one, largely about these kind of concepts. I told in simple sense, there is democracy, there is equality, there is justice, there is idea of what power, what is power, what are the different models of power, what is authority, what is the difference between power and authority. Then there is something called as introduction to political theory. Means how to study politics. There are different approaches to study politics. For example, one we say historical approach. So if you go into your first chapter in Lakshmikant, that is what historical background. That is nothing but historical approach of understanding politics. What do you mean by historical approach? We go back in time period and we try to understand how politics has evolved. Then you have legal perspective of understanding politics. Means based on what are the laws that has been enacted. That is one way of understanding politics. Then you have institutional method of understanding politics. What do you mean by institutional? We'll study about parliament, we'll study about Supreme Court, we'll study about High Court. These are all institutions. So in Lakshmikant also if you take, you have Supreme Court, High Court, etc. These are all institutions. Now, election commission. But these are all the traditional approaches. Modern approaches, what they said, you cannot study only institutions, you cannot only study history and say, end of the day in politics, who plays a key role? People. So obviously there should be study of human behavior. That is only called as behavioralism, which emerged in 1960s, in 1970s in politics. So we need to understand what is behavioralism, why that school emerged, etc. So part A is theoretical. And why we say you have to be good in theoretical, if you are good here, now if you say your part B, it is nothing but whatever is there in your Lakshmikant book. What is that? Indian Constitution, fundamental rights, directive principle of state policy, same to same. Whatever is there, same thing you will be reading in part B. Nothing else is different. But the thing is that since it's an optional subject, you have to link theories and write down answers. So now when happens, that's why I told, when you read polity, many times your polity reading might be plain in that sense that you might not get an idea that, okay, what is the idea of equality? When women reservation bill was brought about, you need to reflect back. What was the idea? If you go back to that picture, what we saw, women reservation bill is based on the idea of not equality, it is based on the idea of equity, plain and simple. Apply those theories when you are analyzing concepts in part B. Everything remains the same, no different. So if you take part B of paper 1, it is nothing but mixture of modern history. Means we'll be studying about a bit of Indian national movement, then how it is different from general studies. In GS you need to go in depth, means you will be preparing for prelims also. So in prelims they might ask a question saying that, okay, who wrote the book Gulamgiri? So you will know it is Jyotirao Phule. But here such kind of in-depth knowledge is not required. Here you need to only understand the major aspect of Indian national movement. For example, the 1857 revolt. Is it the first war of independence, or is it just a revolt, or is it a Sepoy mutiny? What is the view of different people? Then role of Gandhi in Indian national movement. So what did Gandhi do in Indian national movement? And we have to study his methodology. We are not studying about life of Gandhi here. That you would have studied in part A, ideas of Gandhi. In part B specifically you are focusing on what was Gandhi's role during national movement. So if you look into national movement, what is one thing Gandhi did? There was a question asked in UPSC paper 2015, GS paper, they had asked this question in GS paper 1. How different would have been the Indian national movement without Gandhi? For this question and all, you cannot read some book and read. If you have read the book, you will know what Gandhi did. But they have asked the question is what? If Gandhi was not there, how different would have been the Indian national movement? So there is no one answer to it. No one person can write the answer, India would have not got freedom only. You need to bring arguments. One person would have written the answer saying that India would have got freedom very early. You should have written your answers. Means points, your arguments. Why do you feel that way? So here we are studying about what was his role in the national movement. So if you see Gandhi's journey from being Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi to Mahatma Gandhi, because there were certain things that happened which made him Mahatma. So for example, his experience in South Africa, then how he brought it and applied in India. He developed a strategy called as Satyagraha. It's a strategy. End of the day, Satyagraha is a political strategy. It has a philosophical connotation to it. But end of the day, Satyagraha is Gandhi's method of fighting the government. That is the British. And you can see it was very successful. Why? Because one, if you look at moderates, they used what method to fight the British? Constitutional method. Prayer, petition, protest. So obviously these methods were effective to a certain extent. Basically you can say you protest, you pray, petition, etc. End of the British only did very simple things which did not harm their interest. On the other hand, you had revolutionaries who used violence, etc. Now they were also good, but the problem is what that it gave grounds for British to what? Use greater force to repress them. You get mind? Same thing now also. Let us think you are going protesting on road. Now farmers protest is going on. As long as the farmers protest stay peaceful, the police or the government cannot do anything. Because if you go touch peaceful people, now the whole blame will come on the government, saying that they were peacefully protesting, now you used your iron hand. So every time what the governments will be waiting is that if there is any kind of violence incident, because the moment violence will happen, it will give legitimacy to the government to use police forces, because now they will tell you used violence, so that is why we have every right to protect. So Gandhi's idea at that time was that he told Indians did not have that kind of capacity to take on British militarily. We did not have that capacity. But at the same time, Gandhi knew these moderate methods, what they're using, that is also useless. It is not going to come, because he believed that what these democratic methods, prayer, petition, constitutional methods will only work if there is an Indian government in that regard. This government is not Indian, it's a British government. So they won't give any kind of concession. So Gandhi devised his own strategy called as what? Satyagraha, where it involved. So if you take Satyagraha is a banyan tree, ahimsa, non-cooperation, civil disobedience, all these are the branches of the banyan tree. So Satyagraha involved everything, non-cooperation, civil disobedience, etc. So if you look in civil disobedience movement, Gandhi's Satyagraha was highly successful. Why? Now British were confused what to do. One, they could not use violence because people were largely peaceful. Second one, if they kept silently also, now Gandhi, his momentum is going to become more. And ultimately now he made British come to a compromise. That is when they invited Gandhi for what? The round table talks. And why the round table talks were important? It was the first time Indians and Britishers sat as equals and they were discussing the future of India. So here we need to study about these kind of strategies. What was the strategy brought by Gandhi? What were the strategies brought by revolutionaries? What was the strategy brought by the moderates? And we have to see the advantages and disadvantages of each strategy. Why Gandhi's strategy was more successful, that we have to know. So largely this is what you will be studying in national movement. So we are not going in national movement in detail like what you will be doing in your GS subject. Here we are only touching upon the strategies what they use during the national movement. So here you don't need to worry that, sir, should I read all the books which is written by different authors? No, just this. If you go into the syllabus copy, it says that strategies of the Indian national movement. So you have tribal revolts, you have peasant revolt, you have what is that? Moderates, extremists, Gandhian strategy. Then what you have? Same thing in polity. Making of the Indian constitution, fundamental rights, directive principle of state policy, fundamental duties, parliament, judiciary, panchayati raj, constitutional bodies, statutory bodies. And the whole part is divided into three parts. One is historical Indian polity. Means what? The history part of Indian polity. That is your freedom struggle. Second one, you have the institutional part of polity. What is the institution? Studying parliament, state government, central government, prime minister, president, vice president, etc. The third part of this thing is that called as political sociology. So we say marriage between sociology and political science, we call it as political sociology. Why? Because society also influences politics. How does society influences politics? We take no election is going on, right? It is going to happen. So how does society influences politics? Religion, caste, ethnicity. So obviously you have to study here caste and Indian politics. How caste plays a key role in Indian politics. So again you have one or two scholars who will come here who will explain the role of caste. So you have M.N. Srinivas. Heard who is M.N. Srinivas? He is a sociologist from Karnataka, from Mysore. So he is given some concepts called as the dominant caste. It's not that there are upper castes. If you take Brahmins are the upper caste. But what M.N. Srinivasan observed in Indian politics is that there are certain castes who might not be upper caste, but they are very dominant in terms of what? Politics. So if you take Vokkaligas in Karnataka, they come under the category of dominant caste. If you take Jats in Haryana, they come under dominant caste. Or if you take Marathas in Maharashtra, they come under dominant caste. Or Kammas in Andhra Pradesh. So here we have to study about what is the role of caste in Indian politics. There is a popular saying, people in India do not cast their vote, but they vote their caste. So now we have to look and see that, okay, does caste, to what extent caste plays a very important role in Indian politics? Plain example, ticket distribution. Now what will happen? It will be given based on caste calculation. Right, I've told before also. Like I had one friend called as Jayant. We used to popularly call him as Jungle Jackie. Means his pet name. So what Jayant did, he completed all his attempts. Now then he decided one day, I am going to enter politics. You know, I told, okay, very good. Like how you are going to enter politics? What is your plan? Because I worked as a political consultant also. So he said, I have read polity for 8 years. My option is also political science. I know polity very well. I know constitution very well. He's doing law also. I'll do law also. I will enter politics. Then we say this is textbook understanding of politics, not a practical understanding of politics. Why we say it is a textbook understanding? Just because you know polity does not mean there is no rule that you have to know polity to become a politician. Even if you don't know polity, it's fine. So you ask Jungle Jackie which caste you belong to. Yeah, it's incorrect to ask a person's caste, but in politics it will mean. He told Dombi Dasa. There's a community called as Dombi Dasa. I told how much of your caste people are there in Karnataka. He told maybe roughly around 30 to 40,000. Where they are located? He told 10,000 are located here, 5,000 are located here, 3,000 are located here, 2,000 are located. Means his caste even 30 to 40,000 what is there? They are not located in one constituency. So obviously, who is going to give ticket to Jackie? Because basically ticket distribution will happen based on which is the dominant caste there. So if you speak about, it's not that always caste plays a key role. If you are, unless you are somebody like Narendra Modi, means that you have that image that has been built, that can work. For example, if Narendra Modi come and stand in Bangalore Central, he'll win. That's a different, because personality, prime ministerial candidate. But for common people or newcomers in that regard, even if you take Pradeep Ishwar's victory in Chikbalapura, it happened because his caste people are highly, the Baljiga community are largely concentrated there. So that is why we say in India, what they say, people do not cast their vote, do not cast their vote, they vote their caste. So even in 21st century, caste does play a key role in Indian politics. And that you can observe in terms of ticket distribution, in terms of caste mobilization. Different caste groups have different nows. These Mata Swamijis will be there. Why? Because they can mobilize the caste people in favor of one political party. So we need to understand what is the impact of caste politics. There is something called as developmental politics. Does caste politics go against the developmental? Means people are voting on caste, they are not voting on development. There is difference of opinion. It's some people will also say there is positive thing what has happened with caste politics. How? Take the case of Dalits. Now, if there was no democracy and if there was no, what you can say, mobilization on caste lines, now many political parties will have to reach out to the Dalits for what? Votes. Obviously, now what will happen if you take Bahujan Samajwadi Party, BSP, which emerged, and Mayawati went on to become a Dalit female, went on to become the CM of Uttar Pradesh. So some people say that caste was also enabled in politics for the lower caste to rise. In mind, caste is different in terms of society or sociology, but I am telling caste in terms of politics, it has enabled the lower caste to assert themselves. Why? Because in elections you need votes. So that we are going to study about here. What is the impact of caste? Similarly, religion. So till 1980s, religion did not play a key role in Indian politics. It was there. I am telling, it was more of a social movement. If you take Ram Mandir movement, till 1980s, it was more of a social movement. Means generally people were there telling that we want a Ram temple there. But when it became a political movement was in 1980s and 1990s, and you can say you have a person called as Christopher Jefferlot. Okay, he's written a book called as the Saffron, sorry, I forgot his name. It's not Christopher, one more person. He's written a book called as the Saffron Wave. Means the rise of the Bharatiya Janata Party in India. It coincides with the year of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. So there they are going to study on to say that how and why religion started becoming an important tool in Indian politics. So they say largely it goes back to Rajiv Gandhi and his Shabano flip-flop, what he did, and later the appeasement done to the Hindus in that regard. This enabled the BJP to rise in terms of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement, and you can say now the Ram movement, what was more of a social movement, became a political movement, and how religion plays a key role in politics. And we have to link to the idea of secularism here. There are different people with different opinions in that regard. Some people are of the opinion there is no secularism in India. Either you find majority appeasement or either you find minority appeasement. There is no genuine secularism either from the two mainstream parties, the BJP or the Congress. So in this regard, we have to see that what is the role of religion, why religion, caste still plays a key role in Indian politics, what is the reason behind it, that we need to understand. And then we are going into the part called as socio-economic profile of legislators. So if you take our MPs and MLAs, what is their background? How many of them are farmers? How many of them are, if you take earlier in 1950 to 1960, largely it was lawyers who are the politicians. But after 1960s, you see it is largely the farming community which became, because of green revolution, what happened, etc., etc. So that we need to study how it is changing. Then we also need to study why women are not so successful in Indian politics. Why it is largely, I mean, if you take the recent Lok Sabha, that is 2019, what is the percentage of women in Lok Sabha? It is 14%. Why it is only 14%? So basically there is a book which is written by Milan Vaishnav, who says that why crime pays, means in Indian politics, if you have a criminal background in that regard, you will be more successful as a politician than a person who is with a clean slate. He goes into explanation that how it happens, money power, muscle power, etc. And largely women do not have the money power, neither the muscle power, and India is largely a patriarchal society. So in part A, you would have studied about feminism. You would have studied about certain ideas in feminism that we need to apply here. And the last part of this chapter, this part A paper 1, will be political economy. Now it is marriage between what? Politics and economics. Plain and simple. If you are recently reading center state dispute, financial dispute, it is nothing but political economy. Or if you take in India, after 1991, when we brought liberalization, privatization and globalization, you can say the policies of the state started to change. During Nehru's time, what was the policies of the state? Socialist model, state controlled economy. But after liberalization, privatization and globalization, what became the policy of the state? It is more pro-capitalism, or you can say the role of the state is slowly reducing. So we need to understand what is the impact. Again, there are different people with different opinions here. Like you have one person called as Guru Charan Das. He's written a book called as India Unbound. Guru Charan Das is more of pro-capitalism. So he believes that India should have liberalized, privatized, globalized long back. It was too late what they did in 1991, and he says further reforms needs to happen. But you have people like Amartya Sen who says that yes, liberalization is needed, but at the same time we have to be also conscious of the fact that liberalization and privatization has also led to increasing inequality in India. Means the rich are becoming richer, the poor are becoming poorer, the gap is increasing. So this will require what? The state to intervene. The state will have to run schools, education centers. The state will have to invest more on where human capacity building. So that is the last part what we will be studying in thing. So here we will be also covering green revolution. That is also under political economy. Why green revolution started? What was green revolution? What was the impact of green revolution? Here don't think that we are going to study impact of green revolution on environment and all. Impact of green revolution in Indian politics. Everything will be linked to politics end of the day. Impact of green revolution on Indian politics. Land reforms. Plain and simple, what is land reforms? Why land reforms happened? Why land reforms was largely a failure? Why it succeeded in Kerala and West Bengal to a certain extent, and in Karnataka during the times of Devraj Aras. Holistically, this is what there in your paper 1. So part A is concepts. Part B is the application of it, that how Indian politics will do. That's why I told. Whatever you see in Lakshmikant, the same thing will be there. It's only about how you write answers that will be different. That you will come to know once you start practicing. Means here you have to write certain scholars, link their ideas and link their viewpoints. So any doubt you have in paper 1? Now looking at paper 1, if you look at now what is the one doubt many students will have. Now you have in UPSC people from various backgrounds, medical background, commerce background, engineering background, because largely these students will have the doubt that what can I take a social science subject, because I am not aware of these things, can I read those? So as I said, see here when you look at the scores, it is many times those people or engineers who are commerce who scoring better than the social science students in the same subjects. For example, last year's first ranker Ishita Kishore, she is from commerce background, not from political science background, but she was the political science topper. So question is not about whether you can score or not. It is easy. And second one, it is inevitable. In the sense, now let us take for an example, you take that you're from science background, you are very finding it difficult to take a social science subject, and let us say I'll take engineering subject, etc. But end of the day, if you look at the subjects what we discussed, modern history, polity, post independent India, all these subjects are in your GS papers also. So one of the advantages of PSIR is that it will overlap with various of your GS subjects. For example, in GS paper 1, it overlaps with modern history and world history. In GS paper 2, it overlaps with constitution, governance and IR. And in essay, if you see in every time essay, there is certain quotes which are based on political science. I am not telling it, since it is based on political science, you have to write a political science essay. End of the day, essay should be general. You should not try to show your subject knowledge in an essay. Essay should be general. And in ethics, you will be reading about Gandhi, you will be reading about Ambedkar, you will be reading about Plato, you are reading about Aristotle, you are reading about Immanuel Kant. So same people also will be reading in ethics. So that's why I said with you look at PSR syllabus in that regard. To a large extent, why many people opt for PSR, it overlaps with their general studies paper. Now when you come to paper 2, this is where concerns are to some people that international relations. The doubt here is that, sir, international relation is too dynamic. How to cover that? Which I would disagree. Largely this has been what students have not looked at question paper. Students have not looked at what are the recent trend of questions that has been asked, and what do you mean by dynamic also matters. So if you take like now India has signed an agreement, let us take recently, which they have signed that free trade agreement with that 4 of the European countries. These kind of questions won't come in political science largely. They're only going to ask larger aspect. So part A, what is there? Part A is static. What is in part A? What is international relations? What is international politics? How the relations between countries were during 16th century? How things started to change? So here are different theories which are there. Realism, liberalism, Marxism, feminism, postmodernism, post-structuralism, all of these theories were also read in paper 1. So many times what will happen, political science syllabus to look at it looks huge, but it overlaps. So don't take syllabus copies based on what is given there. So if you take, sir, some optional paper is only this much is there, only one page syllabus is there, so it is very easy to cover. It's not that. Once you start reading, it will expand. In political science, if you see, many times syllabus is repeated. Non-aligned movement is there in paper 2 part A. Paper 2 part B, if you take, it is there India and NAM. It is not 2 chapters, it is only 1 chapter. When you read, you are going to read it as 1. You have WTO in paper 1, international organization. Then you have India and WTO in part B. So there is lot of overlap which is there. So that will reduce your syllabus a lot. So in part A in paper 2, largely you are going to read one thing, comparative politics. What is comparative politics? We are going to compare the politics in developing societies with politics in developed countries. So how does elections happen in developed countries? Do their people also vote on the same basis what we say? Do they vote on caste? Do they vote on religion? We need to make a comparative analysis. How now in America elections are happening? There are 2 major parties, Democrats and Republicans. Now if you see, there is something called as primaries are happening. Means initially they will do elections within the party to decide who will be their presidential candidate. That you don't find in India. Right? In our political parties you take, most of our political parties are dynastic by nature. What do you mean by dynastic? They are largely family oriented. Now, if you take JDS as a political party, so you can say it is a family come party. There are many like Samajwadi Party. If you take SP, largely Akhilesh Yadav. He's the son of who was that? Mulayam Singh Yadav. So if you take DMK in that regard, so largely in India we have parties which are dynastic in nature. We have to compare that and see in Western countries. Also, their political parties are dynastic in nature. The other thing in Western countries, when you look at political parties, there is a lot of political parties which take environmental issues. Environmental issues is high politics. High politics means is very important part of their politics. So if you take in Germany, there is a political party called as Green Party. Now, if you take in India, let us say now 2024 election is coming. Have you come across any party which is speaking about environmental protection? You don't find. Why? Because in here, political parties are mainly focused on what? Caste, religion, maybe development like price rise, petrol price, etc. But you find very little emphasis on environment, because environment is not important in it is not yet to become important in our societies. So that is a comparison we are going to do. How it will operate in Western countries, how will it operate in, largely not telling only India. You can take developing India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc. All these societies together. So you have 4 chapters there: comparative politics, political parties, pressure groups, approaches to how to compare, etc. Then you have a chapter on globalization. What is globalization? How does globalization impact developing countries? How globalization impacts developed countries? That we have to look into and understand. So now you see in America, we say America is moving towards deglobalization. Means there is a counter wave against globalization. If you take rise of Donald Trump, and his policy was what? America first policy. So we need to understand what is globalization, why globalization become an important force. Is globalization good or is globalization bad? You cannot say globalization is good or bad. It is both. It has both positives and negatives. What is the impact on developing countries? What is the impact on developed world? So largely all these chapters will be covering what? Comparative politics and globalization. Then you have theories, as I told: realism, neorealism, functionalism, liberalism, feminism. Approach to, means how, let us take feminist or gender approach to international politics. The most dominant school of thought in international politics is realism. Plain and simple. What that theory says, that two countries can never be friends. Two countries, friendship is always based on interest. So for example, you take India and America now. Why India and America are becoming closer? It's not that there is any personal friendship between Prime Minister Modi and Joe Biden in that regard. Because India needs America today and America needs India today. Why both of them need each other? There is a China which is rising. So what is India's interest? India does not want a unipolar Asia. Means unipolar Asia means in Asia, China should not be dominant power. We want a multipolar Asia. What does America want? America also wants the same thing. They don't want a unipolar Asia. They want a multipolar Asia. Or even if it is an Indian-led Asia, they are fine. Because they don't feel India is a threat to their supremacy in the world. Because India has never reflected the intention of being a global power or global hegemon. But China has reflected that intention, that they want to be a global power. And obviously, what does India want at level? For us, if you ask India, that is it better for us to live in an American-led world order, or is it better to live in a China-led world order? India will always feel it is better to live in an American-led world order than a Chinese-led world order. So obviously, your enemy's enemy becomes your natural friend. This is Kautilya's advice ages back. So in international politics, friendship, alliances, etc., it is all based on changing scenarios. That is why we say there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent foes in politics. And not only in international politics, in domestic politics also. There are no permanent enemies, there are no permanent friends. So in this regard, we need to understand these theories. What theories are there? We need to understand, that is one realism theory. Now realism also says that there is no role for values in international politics. What do you mean by values? What is values? Something you want to decide good or bad, etc. Ethics. International politics, the only thing what is permanent is your national interest. To safeguard your national interest, you can also do unethical things. For example, you can say many countries like Pakistan and China, they use weaknesses of India to hit India more. For example, if you take Naxalism or if you take insurgency in Northeast. Why? Because for them that is beneficial, because if they create more problems within India, then India won't be able to focus on its external borders. The same thing can be also said that our research analysis wing, RAW, the external agency, might also do the same things in Balochistan. That is a Pakistan's province. Now, if you tell is it right or wrong, that question does not come. So you cannot judge those things as right or wrong, because they are done with an intention of what? Protecting our national interest. Plain and simple, realism says that there is no role of values in international politics. But feminism, their approach to international politics, they say all these things what has been said, that there is no role for values, they say all of thing has come into being because men dominated the international politics. Most of the prime ministers, president, military generals, all are men, and that is why they say it is the attitude of the men, that men always are very aggressive, men are always non-cooperative. That is why in international politics also countries do not cooperate. Their argument is what? If women go on to become the heads, etc., they will reshape the international politics in a more peaceful way. That is one of the argument. But again, that is being challenged. They say, for example, one thing to say that yes, women are not represented in international politics, agreeable. The second argument, many don't agree, saying that if women goes on to become the leaders of the nation state, that they will going to change the behavior of nation states. They won't, because they say countries do not act on gender, they act on interest. So for example, many say when Indira Gandhi was the prime minister, India went to a war. So if you ask who is more peaceful, is it Mahatma Gandhi or Indira Gandhi? Question is different. Indira Gandhi's policies, you cannot tell she was wrong at that point of time. You needed an aggressive PM in that regard, and you can say that is what she did, protect India's interest, and that is why India went to a war with Pakistan, and finally you can say Bangladesh was liberated. So these theories will be reading. What is the feminist approach to international politics? What is the Marxist approach to international politics? What is the liberal approach to international politics? What is the realist approach to international politics? Then you are going to study concepts. So in IR, many of you, why you will find IR difficult is that maybe you don't know the concepts. There is a concept called as power. There is a concept called of national interest. There is a concept called as balance of power. There is a concept called as deterrence. There is a concept called as nuclear deterrence. There is a concept which is called as what you can say, collective security. There is a concept called as security. So we need to read all these concepts here. Like if you take security, in 18th century, 19th century, countries, when they thought of security, they thought of what? Three things will come. Security from what? Security from whom? Basically security from another country. Okay, security of what? Your territory. That's the main thing. But today if you ask, we cannot tell security threat only comes from another country. Security threat can also come within the country. Now you cannot tell there is only if your territory is profile, because if you take COVID, it happened, we say virus knows no border. You cannot fight virus through weapons. So you cannot tell you are the most powerful country because you have the most powerful weapons in that regard. And history has also shown, classic example, America's exit of Afghanistan. Even though America was the most powerful country in the world, they could not defeat Taliban. The reason was that Taliban fought guerrilla warfare tactics. So obviously today the idea of security is very different. Today we are speaking about food security, we are speaking about water security, we are speaking about human security, we are speaking about women security, we are speaking about cyber security. So the idea of security, what was there before and today, has completely changed. So that we need to understand how the idea of security is changing. You know what? That's what these are all concepts: security, national interest, balance of power, all these concepts. Then we are going to read into Cold War. What is Cold War? Why Cold War happened? What was the outcome of the Cold War? Then when you are studying outcome of the Cold War, we also have to study out non-aligned movement, NAM. What is NAM? What are the goals of NAM? Why NAM created? What is contribution of NAM? Then we are going to study about the American hegemony. Means how America went on to become the superpower of the world. If during Cold War, if you take, it was a bipolar world order. What do you mean by bipolar? Two countries dominated the global world. One is USSR, the other was America. But USSR disintegrated. So we have to read about why did USSR disintegrate. There are many reasons to it. Okay, some say Gorbachev was also the reasons because the policies what he brought. Gorbachev was the head of the USSR. So once USSR disintegrated, USA went on to become the dominant power. That we have to understand. How did they become the dominant power? And when we say America is the most dominant power, how? Is it militarily? Is it technologically? Is it ideologically? There are many ways how America controls the world. Dollar is the global currency. McDonald's, KFC are symbols of American companies. Plain and simple. Now, what McDonald's you eat, KFC you eat, these are all American companies in that regard. And if you take America's military budget, even today, if you add up the next 8 countries' military budget, it won't match the American military budget. They are one of the most highest spenders on defense. And America is also technological power. If there is any one country that can strike any part of the world with precision, that is United States of America. But all said so, since 2008, we can see there is a decline of the American power. Economic decline has happened. At the same time, you are seeing there is a rise of China. Now, question remains is that, is China has got that capacity to replace America as the new superpower of the world? Or is it going to lead to a war between America and China? Or China is, not going to, China does not have the capacity to alter. Maybe China will emerge as a power in Asia. That we need to study. And what will be the implication of all this on India? So that is this part of the chapters. Then we are going to study into international organizations. Again, now many students will have doubts, sir, there are 40-50 international organizations. Can we sit and read? You don't need to go to 40-50. If you see the question paper, only the major organizations, UN, IMF, World Bank, WTO, World Health Organization was asked in recent times because that COVID situation was in news, International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court. Largely only these things have been asked. So they have not even asked about UNESCO, they have not even asked about UNICEF, they have not asked about ILO. If you want, you go see political science paper of last 10 years in that regard. Largely they have asked, every year they have asked one question on UN. Okay, IMF and World Bank they'll ask whenever it has been in news. WTO is the other. WTO is important because a lot of negotiations are happening, etc. Then we'll study about regional organization. Not all, the major ones. European Union, ASEAN, SAARC, African Union, you have NAFTA, North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Why? These have been all in news. And then you have the last part of this part will be democracy at global level. Means today more number of countries have become democratic or they are on the path of democracy. But at the same time you can see there has been failure of democracy in many places like Myanmar, Afghanistan, Iraq. You have to look into why democracy has failed in these societies. Especially all of these countries are what? Developing countries. But how come India is one country, in spite of being a developing country, in India democracy has sustained? Same now, you took out our neighbors. Afghanistan, there is no democracy. Pakistan is pseudo-democratic. In Nepal, they are on the path towards democracy. If you take in, Bangladesh also, there has been military rule in between. But how come India was one country where democracy is sustained when all our neighboring countries are unstable? That we have to explore the answer. And second one is that we have to question that, is democracy the best form of government in the first place? You have people like Winston Churchill who says that it may be the worst form of government, but it is the best until we have an alternative. The other question we'll be looking here is that now America, what they are doing, they are imposing democracy on other countries. They are telling you also become democratic. Now many people have questioned that, is it correct? Can we forcefully bring democracy somewhere? We say the word democracy at gunpoint. Means you forcefully bring democracy. Like for example, in Iraq they brought democracy, but you can see it collapsed within no time. In Afghanistan they brought a democratic government. Once America exited, the government collapsed, Taliban came back to power. So we need to understand that. And then we have climate change negotiation. So for example, the last 3 COP we have to take. COP 26, COP 27, COP28. So COP26 was where? Glasgow. COP27 was where? Sharm el Sheikh, that is in Egypt. COP28 was where? Dubai. So here we have to see that what is India's stand when it comes to climate change negotiation. We are not bothered about everything, only India's stand in climate change negotiation. What is India looking with climate change negotiation? What is India's leadership we have taken? Like we have started International Solar Alliance. So we have to look into these aspects. Then we have terrorism. What are the causes of terrorism? Why terror groups have become very powerful today? What is the global effort to tackle terrorism? And why in different parts of the world we have failed to tackle terrorism in the first place? Like you have ISIS who have become a thing. And then you have gender issues at global level. Gender issues, what are the problems faced by women in different parts of the world? So largely this is what is there in your comparative politics and international relations. Part B is plain and simple. It is India's foreign policy. Means evolution of India's foreign policy. Evolution means from British time, how did our foreign policy develop? Second one, factors that play a key role in foreign policy. Historical factors, cultural factors, political factors, social factors, economic factors, technological factors, etc. etc. Then we have institutions in foreign policy making. Prime Minister's Office, Ministry of External Affairs, National Security Council. Then you have Parliament. You have think tanks. For example, recently if you take Rasina Dialogue was held. Who conducted Rasina Dialogue? You know, right? There was a dialogue called as Rasina Dialogue. So who conducted? Ministry of External Affairs along with a think tank called as ORF, Observer Research Foundation. So what is the role of think tanks in foreign policy making? Then we are going into India's nuclear policy. India, from being an opposer of nuclear weapons, went on to become a country which possesses nuclear weapons. So you have to read about NPT, CTBT, PTBT, NSG, India's nuclear doctrine, and two operations what you have done, Operation Smiling Buddha and Operation Shakti. So what is India's stand on thing? Then we have to also study Indo-US nuclear deal which was signed in 2008. And then we have to go into India's relation with South Asia. South Asia, if you take, which countries will come? Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bhutan, Nepal. Again, sir, should we know all? No. See, now tell me among all these countries, which country is in news? One is Myanmar, more than Myanmar, it is Maldives. Because in Maldives, there was a government change that is going to impact. Plain and simple. See, in IR, what is one advantage? Na? You can easily predict the question that is going to come in the exam. They are not going to randomly choose. They are going to just ask a question that has been news. So Maldives is in news. It comes in South Asia. So they can ask a question on Maldives. Afghanistan was in news. Why? Taliban took over. Last year they asked a question on Afghanistan. So you don't need to read everything. You have to be just conscious of the fact what is going on. And then we'll read about superpowers. India's relation with US, India's relation with Russia, India's relation with China, India's relation with European Union, India's relation with Japan, India's relation with Israel. These are the countries that has been mentioned. So if you say, sir, there are Prime Minister visited Greece, should I read that? Not required. Prime Minister visited some small highland country, should I read that? Not required. Because it is not mentioned in the syllabus. That you don't worry. Then you have to read about what? The diaspora. The role of Indian diaspora in foreign policy making. And finally, India's membership in UN. Today we are demanding for a permanent membership in UN Security Council. Will we get? Why we are demanding? What are the challenges that we have to look into? So if you take paper 2 is 60% static, 40% is dynamic. Dynamic in that sense, the part B part. So for these things is that from insights only, that if you see from last 2 years, I have been providing something called as news to notes. What is news to notes? That will cover the IR part in that regard. Whatever you feel is dynamic, means for you to read only one source. Means we'll collect articles from different websites and that has been summarized and given as one document that is released every month if you take on Insights website in that regard. So rest of the part for which we will be providing class notes. Okay. So last time we used to dictate, but this time all the notes are ready, so not much dictation will be there. The notes will be provided before the class. You need to read once and come. In class we are going to discuss. Largely we are going to explain things how it is. Now, seeing the syllabus part, now looking at political science as why political science can be opted. As I told, one, it is an interesting subject. Second one, concepts are easy to grasp because you can relate things in and around you. It is easy to relate to current happenings. So I told elections is going on, you can know. And PSR has been one of the scoring subject in recent times. But as I said, so I won't promote you take PSR, pakka you will get 300, 400. I'm not going to say that. It depends upon your capacity also. So my scores only in political science I've uploaded on my Twitter page also. So I scored 290 and 280 odd. Okay. So it is easy. You can score well, but it requires the approach also how you are going to do it, and it helps a lot in general studies preparation. Already shown that where it is going to overlap. And if you see the percentage or the success ratio of PSR, this is the data of 2014, 15, 16 and 17, it has been consistently increasing. So success ratio in 2014 was around 6.3%, now by 2017 it is 9.4%. So largely if you see last year, if you take, I am telling only based on last year or last 2 years, political science and sociology to a certain extent are the optionals which are performing well. Okay, I am not telling other options are not doing well. For me, you can score in any optional. Okay, there is no hard and fast rule is that you only go by number, etc. I am not telling if you only take political science or if you only take sociology, you will do well. People who have taken anthropology also have done well. People who have taken Kannada literature also have done well. People who have taken geography also have done well. Plain and simple, it is your interest. Don't think like the other way around. I take this optional, automatically I am going to score 300. No. You can look at two ways. There are 100 people who have taken one particular option and only one person has cleared. Okay. Let us take there are again 100 people, they have taken a particular option, 99 people have cleared, one person has failed, and you are that one person who have failed. It doesn't matter. So end of the day it matters that whether you have done well or you are not, what others are doing doesn't matter. So as I told, it also depends upon, see, one thing is that what will happen certain times when the subject is too static, it becomes to score difficult. The reason why being is that people think it the other way. They think that static, na. So what is there? Same thing to write. No, what will happen if the static, everybody are going to write the same thing. So obviously you cannot make a difference in exams. In these kind of exams, these are all competitive exams. It's not like degree exam that everybody write the same thing, everybody will get the same marks. So obviously you need to write something which is different from others for you to gain that extra 10 marks or 12 marks. That is only possible when you bring dynamism in your paper. So even if it is a static paper, unless you bring certain current linkages in it, you are not going to score very high marks. And that has been the scoring trend also. If you look at why political science and sociology have performed better, because comparatively these subjects can be easily related to current events. And also it depends on the person who has taken up the subject also. It's not that everybody who has taken the subject have scored. But as I said, if you go by data also, yeah, political science has done decently well. And like political science is an option that we can say not too many people take or not too less people take. It will be always on the average. And if you see, will the option be able to get you the top ranks? So these are the list of toppers in last 2, 3, 4 years. You had Gunjan Divedi rank 9, you had Tina Dabi in 2015 rank 1. Last year 2022 you had Ishita Kishore again PSIR who's rank 1. So there are a lot of people with political science optional who have come in top 100 and top 25. But again, as I said, if they have come, it does not mean you will also come unless you develop those abilities and you work towards it. So these are certain questions what you can say they were asked in political science. This is a part A question. How liberty is a precondition for equality? Explain the relation between equality and liberty. So they are telling liberty is first more important than equality. They are asking how and why. And then they are asking, please tell the relation between equality and liberty. A simple example for that is that if you take right to property, your right to own property is a liberty. But if you tell we are going to give unlimited right to ownership of property, what it will happen? It will create inequality in society because everybody cannot own the property. So land reforms, if you take in India, basically land reforms was done to balance liberty and equality. Okay, that you will, once you study theories, you will get an idea. This is in part B, paper 1. what are the provisions for constitutional protection of right to freedom of religion and how far they have succeeded in promoting secularism in India. Plain and simple, you have to write about Article 25 to 28, Article 14, Article 15, etc. Then you have to make an analysis and write, okay, has it made India a secular country? To what degree it has made? What are the challenges for secularism in India? That you need to write. This is paper 2 part A. The feminist approach to international politics is biased. Comment. I don't know. Some people say that feminists saying that women becoming the leaders of the country automatically will change international politics. They say that is the bias. But nevertheless, feminist approach has highlighted many defects within the international political system. So again, you need bit of reading on that to answer that question. And this is paper 2 part B. This is a question what they've asked on India Israel. In the history of foreign policy, seldom have relations between any two nations blossomed as fast as they have in the case of India and Israel. Discuss. India and Israel popularly they are asking question why? It has been in news. So what are the sources to refer in general? To start with, always please start with your NCRT. There is political science NCRT book. Which one? Introduction to Political Theory class 11. Then you have Constitution at Work. Then you have Contemporary Global Politics class 12, that yellow color book. So if you read these three books, this will set your base before the classes. In the sense you will be able to understand what will be done in a class. So first and foremost start with basic reading of NCRT. Complete those three books. Second source what you can use is that classroom notes will be provided. Along with that you can use IGNOU material as a reference. Means whatever class notes you read, you just keep IGNOU material with you to add any additional point or additional point is required. The third important source will be for international relation politics. There is a book called as Andrew Haywood Global Politics. It's a foreign author book in that regard. Again, it's a reference book. I'm not telling you have to read the book from end to end. It's used as a reference. Reference means selected chapters. For rest of the thing, you have to bank on class notes. That will be provided. But you need to have one good habit of what? Reading newspaper. Read newspaper every day, especially editorial pages. Today's newspaper also if you take, there is one editorial page given on Finance Commission. How many of you read newspaper morning? See, that is your habit. What do you have to make it a habit? The first and foremost thing every day when you get up, what you have to do? Make a habit of reading newspaper. See, optional classes will start usually in Insights. The optional class will be from 7 to 10. That is fixed. For all the optional, it will be from morning 7 to 10. So obviously your GS classes will start at 10:30 or so. So what you can do is that early morning when you get up or you come to class, you will get break in between. Carry a newspaper, read 1 or 2 editorial pages, what is given. So today's newspaper they have given about 16th Finance Commission. They spoke about what was the recommendation of 15th Finance Commission. Why South Indian states are unhappy with the recommendation of the 15th Finance Commission. In another editorial page, they have given about judiciary. The West Bengal issue. There was a judge joined a political party in that regard. They have told how to make these kind of situations do not happen again. So reading newspaper will be always an added advantage. So that's what I told. Class notes, NCRT, IGNOU, Andrew Haywood, newspaper that you need to read. Rest you will come to know that once you start your preparation in that regard. Now, see target is 350. Whether 350 you can score or not is secondary. If you aim for 350, at least you will score 300. Now BJP has kept a target of 400. They might not reach 400. But why they'll keep always 400 as the target? If they aim for 400, at least they'll score 300. That is what we say positivity. Yeah, scoring 350 is very, very difficult, but not impossible. If you work very hard, if you bring lot of unique content in your answer, it is. If nobody has done it, you can do it. But there are a lot of people who have scored 310, 315, 320. So if you keep 350 as a target, at least you can end up 300, and that should be an ideal target that you have to score. So what here we are doing is that my approach in political science has been not only to teach the subject, that you can read from any book also in this regard. Here plain and simple, my only goal is to make you score marks in the exam. Not to make you a political science expert, etc. Or you can say, sir, I will read political science, then I will go into politics and all. Not required. It's only to score decent marks in the exam, what you have taken the optional subject. That is our duty to ensure that you get the required skills. Second one, there will be certain classroom tests. It is not like an exact test. What is my plan in optional is that make people write answers in class itself. Means after one chapter we complete or 2 or 3 chapters we complete, we'll take up a question, we'll discuss the question in the class, then we'll make you write the answer in the class. The reason is that many of you don't know how to write an answer, and initially if you say a test, it will be also not meaningful because first test you will write, second test many won't come. So here you need to train the person about to writing a good answer. So that will be part of the classroom program also, that making you write answers in the class itself. Means we'll discuss a question, what is the ideas you can bring, then we'll write an answer. So our goal is that by the time we complete the course will be around 4.5 to 5 months. In that 5 months, at least you should have answer writing ability. I'm not telling within the given time, at least you know how to write a good answer. That should be one of the criteria. Second thing is that that is there with insights all batches. Personal review means anytime you can come and show your answers and you get in one-to-one feedback. And we'll be also teaching in classroom how to link theories with current affairs. So obviously when classes will be done, I'll be also taking up certain current affairs. Like if you are doing judiciary, now the judge joining a political party, what is the issue, etc. And the idea is that read as minimum sources as possible. Don't try to read all the sources. One mistake what I had done when I wrote my first mains with political science as an optional. So I went to a website and I saw what to read, because at that point of time there was no coaching centers here. Second thing, Shubhra ma'am was in Delhi, so I was not comfortable going to Delhi. Neither Shubhra ma'am was offering any online courses. So I decided I'll prepare on my own. So I went to some online website, I saw one, they had written that read Shashi Tharoor's Pax Indica, David Malone's Elephant Candles. These are all books on international trade. I read Rajni Kothari's Politics in India. I read 7 to 8 standard books. And when I went and wrote my first mains in that regard, so basically I was not able to, write effective answers to many questions. And still I remember one question was there. There are also a question in part B, that is what? Comment on the dilemma in the human rights movements in India. That was the question. Comment on the dilemma on the human rights movement in India. In book I have read what is human rights movement, but I was not able to think what is this dilemma in human rights movement. So plainly in my answer I wrote what is human rights, etc. I wrote and came. So this fellow I told Hanmant Raju, who had to come to today's session, he was also one of the person who was writing mains with me. And that fellow had not prepared so much for political science. He had read moderately. I had prepared a lot of these books. He got scared seeing that books I had brought to the exam center. I had brought 7-8 textbooks and all. So told, young guru, he got really scared by first. Then after the first paper, before going to second paper, there will be break. So we were sitting and discussing. So I asked him, let me see what this fellow wrote for this question. I told, what did you write for this question? So he told it was simple. Now. He told, what is simple? He told, what is the meaning of dilemma? Confusion. So what is the question they asked? Dilemma for human rights movements in India. So what is the confusion with the human rights movement in India? So he told, I wrote about one, that particular year there was an issue which had happened in India, in Karnataka only. This Malay Kudia community who is there in Kukke Subramanya, they are a tribal community. They have a practice. What is that practice? They will roll over the eaten banana leaves of Brahmins. That's a custom. Now many people criticized saying that this is against human rights, this is against human dignity. But the problem there was that community itself, they told this is what we want to do, this is what we will do. Who are you to ask this is our cultural right? Now that's a confusion whether that comes under human rights or that does come under cultural rights. Second one, he told, I wrote about abortions. Women groups in India, some women groups in India argue that abortion is the right of a woman because it's her body and the child belongs to her, she can decide what to do. But many cultural groups, they say that you cannot kill the child. So that's a dilemma, whether the human rights is there for the fetus or does the human rights only starts once the baby is born. So he told, I gave 2-3 exams and like this. Then I understood, okay, for this exams we cannot just read theory, we also learn a lot of application. Again, mind, that's the difference between KPSC and UPSC. In KPSC it will be much theoretical. What you read in the book, that only you can go right. In UPSC the problem will be always what? It will be always applied. So unless you are good in application part, you cannot expect great scores in exam. So that's what I told, one of the agenda of our classroom is that to link theory as much as practice. Our main thing is that not to make a student rote learning parrot. That is what I have told in my GS classes also. If you just come down, take down notes, repeat that same thing, results are not going to come. The main thing of a program should be improving your thinking ability, how you can think, how you can analyze. That will be the more emphasis which we give in this course. And these are all the feedbacks which is given on Quora by the former students who have been there. So obviously, because many students will have their set of doubts, right? How can we trust in that regard? So obviously these are certain feedbacks. See, we are not compelling anybody to join, or I am not a person who is saying that you join, I'll make you 400, I'll take you to Mussoorie and all. We are going to do justice how much we can do. The rest will also depend upon the students' interest, the students' ability also to cooperate and follow what has been said. So these have been certain feedback which has been given on the PSIR classes at insights in that regard. So Netra Meti is one of the test series student. She went on to become All India Service rank. She is in IAS currently in Himachal Pradesh. So as I told, test series we have got a lot of rank. This year also from the political science test series, I have 28 students who have given interview call. So out of 28, at least 8 to 10 will get a rank. So rank claiming that will be done. I am not telling like, see, getting a rank from classroom program is different. Getting a rank from a test series program, because test series program we have people who have already experience of written the exam. So I told we need more people to produce rank from what classroom. There is one classroom student who has given interview this time. His name is Tejas. You have to see whether how the results will go once it is announced. So as I told, it will take around 4 months, or it will need an additional 5 months, means buffer period. So you can take it as 5 months to complete the syllabus. Focus will be more on answer writing skill, not just reading the subject, because I told now in optional, it's not that only you know the subject. What many people think, right? We know the subject, we are done. No, that 500 marks, how you are going to gain, or that 350, or how much you want to, how you are going to gain by writing. If you write answer only, marks is going to come, not by telling the answer, by not listening to the answer. So more focus will be given on improving your answer writing skills. Second one, class notes will be given for most of the areas, but in certain ways I'll give certain readings. Texts will be provided, means printed copies that you'll have to read. And how to read editorial pages, and especially for IR part, how to cover, that will be taught in class once we go about. So the main agenda of the program is to what? Give, not to give a man fish every day. So in order to teach him the art of fishing, so that he will be able to send. See, the goal is that, let us take, next year you wrote prelims, bad luck, you didn't clear. So you cannot come back to coaching again. Once you are done with your coaching, that is done. So what is the agenda of a coaching? Agenda of coaching is not to give you some material or not to give you some notes. That's why I keep telling now in GS class I keep telling, see, whatever in GS classes notes what we provide, if you logically think, that is what is there in Lakshmikant itself. It is not very different from what is not there in Lakshmi. Same thing, what is there in Lakshmikant, it is more simplified in layman language. The agenda of a program is not just taking down notes, etc. The agenda of program is understanding the approach, how to approach the exam. Because once you complete your coaching, let us think next year when you start preparation on your own, at least you should have the confidence, now I know how to prepare. Now I can manage things on my own. You should not be in a position now also you don't know anything how to prepare. So the agenda of the coaching is to what? Give you all the inputs saying that what you need to do to prepare correctly. So that is the motto of our program. So the course will be starting on April 1st. The batch will be starting on April 1st. The announcement will be made tomorrow or day after, means the admission process will be started. You can also attend demo classes for 2 or 3 days once the course will start, because then once class will start, you'll get to know in more depth of the subject in that regard. So this is what I have got to say regarding PSR. Now it's open to any doubts or any questions what you guys have. If you have any doubt, you can ask regarding the optional subject. Or you have no doubts only. No, Shashank sir will be handling 25% of the syllabus. So I will be handling 75%. Some parts of part B that Shashank sir will be doing. The rest 75 I will be only taking. Any other doubt anybody has? Or nobody has any doubt? You can ask any doubt regarding optional or anything else. IGNOU means Indira Gandhi Open University. There is MA material for political science. That will be online only, freely you will get. If you just type IGNOU PSIR material, you will get a list of materials that you download and keep. I will tell in classroom when to read which material. Okay. So there is IGNOU BA and MA. Both materials are there. So I will tell once the class will start which material you need to refer. But that is freely available. It is freely on IGNOU website only. If you go, you can download it. Indira Gandhi Open University, this thing. So that will give you a basic knowledge that how to, like, what is the content, basic content. Okay. But 80% of the syllabus, the class notes will be provided. So you have to go through the class notes, or class notes will be uploaded on the portal before the class itself. So you can prepare and come on that. And once we go through the class, we'll go through the notes, we'll go through the explanation, any additional examples, case studies that can be added, that will be added into class. And as I told, I think so some of you have seen that yesterday, the political science 6 months current affairs, polity and IR current affairs, what is being provided. Like that for political science also it will be provided. Okay, if you want India, China, all in consolidated in one place, India, America, all consolidated in one place. So that will be releasing again now just before mains, after the prelims. So you will be also getting consolidated material for political science also, like how we have done for GS, polity and IR. Same thing will be done for PSIR. So you don't need to sit and read every material. You can go through it. But I would always encourage you to read newspaper. Okay, and you can also watch this Lok Sabha TV. Or what is that, Rajya Sabha TV. There will be many debates important on political science. That will be also highly useful for your preparation. Hmm. Hmm. No, see, there is no additional current affairs. So whatever GS current affairs you are reading, that will be the same. The only thing, what is the difference if you ask between, let us take GS and political science. In GS, my answer need not have any theories. I did not link any theories. But in political science, when a question is asked, I might link certain theories and opinions of scholars. So for example, let us take, there is a question on political parties. They say there is a question something like political parties lack internal democracy in India, critically analyze. In GS answer, generally I will explain through examples. But in political science, I might link certain theories which I have read in part A. There is certain theories given by Mosca, Pareto. I will link those theories and write my answer. So current affairs, there is nothing separate current affairs for political science. There is separate current affairs for general studies. Current affairs remains same for both. There is no additional current affairs. It's only that the way you write your answer, that will slightly vary. Okay, so in political science, when you write the same answer, see what will happen many times. Question paper will look very easy, especially what will happen with sociology and political science or PubMed. Generally students, what he'll do, he'll open the question paper, he will see the questions, he will see certain words he can understand, so he'll tell, okay, this is very easy for me, why am I, like they will open, like take sociology paper, they'll even comment on Swachh Bharat. Now they'll tell, I know na Swachh Bharat, what is there, I know society, will write, no. In sociology, you have to link sociological theories in that regard, then you have to write the answer. If you just write general studies answer and come, they won't give marks. Green revolution is there in sociology, green revolution is there in political science, green revolution is there in public administration. It is there in all the optional subject is there. Then you can ask, sir, when they ask green revolution in sociology, when they ask the same question in political science, how it is different? In sociology, you have to write more sociological angles in that regard. In political science, you have to write more what is the impact of green revolution on politics. After green revolution, Congress as a party declined. You remember the time when we say 1969 to 70 when Congress system declined, it was the same time period when green revolution happened in India. The reason was that after green revolution, many farmers became rich. Now these rich farmers, they were largely belonging to OBCs. That is why you say rise of OBC in India. The regional parties became very strong. Get your mind? So, coming to the point, current affairs is not extra. Current affairs remains the same. It is only from what angle you are writing that will differ. So, there is no additional current affairs, anything like that. The same current affairs what you are reading for general studies is the same current affairs what you will be reading for political science also. It's only about your method of writing, the way of writing that will differ. General studies answer will be general, no need to link any theory. But a political science answer, you have to link one or two theories and present your answer. They have to feel that this fellow has political science knowledge. That is why it is called as optional subject. So that is what many people, what they think is that when they look at optional papers, that is how they decide. They take up the optional paper and tell this is too general. Or let us take many engineering students, like anthropology, science, again it is very easy for us. When you start reading it, it's a different ball game. And especially when you write, that again it is a different ball game. So that's why I told, what you for that you need to do is that first you go through the question paper, understanding how you need to write the answers for these papers, then you will get a better understanding, okay, this option is suitable for me or is it not suitable for me. That's why there is nothing called as good option or bad option. It depends upon us. Okay, there is no option. In every option you find there are toppers. Take any option. English literature also you think there are people who have cleared with it. Law, there are people who have cleared with it. Medical science, there are people who have cleared with it. Question is that are you good enough in that perspective for that optional subject? That you need to look at. Any other doubt? Online students, if you have any doubt, you can ask. Okay, if there is no any other doubt, we'll wind up this session here. And that's what I told. The further communication about when the course will be open, that will be on the Telegram group and Insights website. So that's what we can do also, that attend demo classes from April 1st. Then you can go ahead and decide. Okay. Okay then. Thank you.